Blood, Gore, and Ghouls horror movie podcast. I'm your host, Ian Van Gool. This week, I'm joined by Mac Jameson. He's the director of the upcoming horror thriller short film Midnight Transient. The film will be released on May 10th by Emerald Strike Films, and I'm very excited to check it out. I had a really good time talking with Mac. We have a great conversation not only about Midnight Transient, but about horror movies in general and what works and doesn't work for both of us when it comes to films. I hope you all enjoyed our conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. So here it is, episode 36 of Blood, Gore, and Ghouls horror movie podcast, my conversation with Mac Jameson. Blood, Gore, Ghouls horror movie podcast. Blood, Gore, Ghouls horror movie podcast.
There'll be food and drink and ghosts. And perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited.
I'm sitting here with Mac Jameson. He's the director of the upcoming horror thriller short film Midnight Transient, be releasing May 10th from Emerald Strike Film Company. Mac, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. I'm happy that you're here as well. Excited to talk to you. So before we get into the film, I'd love to hear a little bit about you and your journey. What made you want to be a filmmaker, and how did it all come to be?
So I started off as an actor originally, back in like my late teens, early 20s. And, not a lot of work on the East Coast, unfortunately. And I'd spent some time out West as well, but it ended up getting sidetracked, unfortunately. And then crazily enough, I ended up as a boxer for a while. So I professionally boxed for 5-6 years, started my own gym, did that. Loved every second of that. But then was just like, you know what, I think I'm ready to kind of ease back from the boxing stuff and come back to acting, come back to filmmaking, come back to all that, because everything had kind of situated itself well enough to do that. So me and a couple of people got together. We had many, many discussions about it. I think we started off with our first film, right during COVID, by the way.
Okay.
So that was fun. But we started off, kind of got the hang of it, got all the equipment for the most part straight. And I think it was the first day that we had done it. It was in the fall. And I remember it was a scene where it required rain. So we had to have the water going. I think it was 40 degrees outside.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I remember standing in the rain and I was like, yep, I love this. Missed every fucking second of it. So was very, very happy to be back. And ever since then, it's just been nonstop. Like I was telling you before we got started, it's it seems nonstop every single week, but that's fine. It could be worse.
Right. I guess it's positive. It's always good to stay busy, right?
It is, and there's never really going to be, at least for the foreseeable future, never really going to be an end to how much work we're always going to have to be doing. But that's just because we give so much of a shit about it. So, no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Hell yeah. So I'm assuming, judging that this is a horror thriller, that you are a fan of horror movies as well.
So it's funny that you asked that, because if somebody asked me my favorite genre or types of films, it wouldn't be horror. It wouldn't be horror right off the bat. But I say that begrudgingly, because The Shining is probably one of the greatest films I've ever seen, and I'm obsessed with it. And I can watch it. I could probably watch it every other week and be fine. Being one of the quintessential horror films. And then Psycho and Rosemary's Baby, obviously, being another two great films. And I'm not alone in that thought process. So I like that style of horror. And I think I have a deep appreciation for what goes into all of it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's probably wrong for me to say that I don't love it, but I think I do. I just don't know if I love some of the modern approaches of it.
Okay.
I like to see a very classic return to form. I think there's something very iconic and great about that. So, yeah, no, it's hard for me to answer that question, because if I feel hypercritical in that. But no, like I said, there's so many older horror films, especially, and I think there is some newer stuff too that I think that I've seen. I can't remember off the top of my head that I do deeply love and adore. So, But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's no right or wrong answer to it. I always like to ask everybody, just to get a kind of idea of what kind
Mhm.
of horror movies you're into, or if you're into horror at all or not.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's always a interesting question to get an answer to. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I love the classics. Obviously, I watch all different horror movies, modern, old, all
Well,
of it. So
what's the most recent one you've watched? Tell me about that.
most recent, I'm actually in the middle of Infested right now.
Okay.
It just dropped today on Shutter. But it's as far as like the most recent would be Abigail. I just went to the theater
Haven't seen
last weekend to see
it.
that. That one was good. Horror comedy, definitely more comedy. Um, but it was a good time. Um, Probably the last one that really that um, like really got me is Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah. So yeah. Yep. And is where is that at right now? Is that in the theater still, or is it streaming?
It's on Shutter now. It dropped on Shutter on
Okay.
the 19th. Yep.
Yeah, I saw. I've seen like clips of it here and there,
Hmm.
like just like screenshots and stuff like that. And I saw it was some hodgepodge of like it had some of the score. And it
Hmm.
was a still photo of like one of the more gruesome scenes, and I was like, it really left me with a strong feeling. I was like, even if this kind of ruins my mental health for a couple of weeks, I think I'm gonna have to go watch it just because it really bothered me, but not in a way where like they tried that hard. It's just I think it was the music and just that image. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to go watch that now. So it's funny you bring that up. It's funny you
Yeah.
bring.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it, especially if since you're a fan of like the older, like Rosemary's Baby and
Mhm.
stuff from the 60s and 70s. Uh, it definitely it takes place in the 70s, so essentially it's like a late night show. Think if like Reagan from The Exorcist was a
Mhm.
guest on a late night show.
It's great.
So
It's
it's
a
not.
great concept. It's a great
Oh
concept.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very original. Like I've never seen anything quite like it. And yeah, it's not crazy the whole way through or anything, but it's
Mhm.
just like David Dasmalchian being the lead in it. Like
Yep. Yep.
you're hooked from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely recommend that one for sure.
Yeah. That's one I'm gonna have to kind of go out of my way and
Hmm.
prepare myself to watch, but I'm gonna go out of my way to watch it. Um, yeah, because I haven't seen something that really gets to me like that,
Hmm.
and that did kind of get to me. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make a point for that. And I like the setting and everything too. The fact that it's on
Yeah,
like the talk show and everything like that. I think that's great. I think
yeah,
that's great.
yep, yeah. It's like I said, it's not overly like scary. I guess
Mhm.
it's subjective on
Yeah.
what affects you and whatnot, but yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it's overly scary, quote unquote, but yeah, it's just a really fun, really cool time, and very pretty original. So
Yeah, that's I think that's another big reason why I want to see it is like they're trying to try this specific take on it, and I have a
mhm.
deep appreciation for that. So
Yeah,
there
yeah,
was
you have to let me
another.
know. Let me know
Yeah,
when
I
you watch
will.
it.
I will.
Yeah.
I'm gonna text you after I get done with it, and I'm gonna tell you my thoughts on it.
All right. Awesome.
Um, what's the Sydney Sweeney one that just came out?
Immaculate.
Yeah,
That
have you seen that
yeah,
yet?
I have. Yes, I really like
Thoughts?
that one too. I really enjoyed it. It's very it's over the response to it that I've seen is very kind of split in half.
Mm,
I really enjoyed it because it wasn't on my radar at all. Like I knew it was a movie coming out, but I didn't know really anything about it,
yeah,
and went and saw it, and I was hooked from the beginning, and the ending was phenomenal. Like,
that's what I keep
obviously I'm not
hearing.
going to say anything, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
like Sydney Sweeney fucking acts her ass off in that. Yeah, and
It,
I really enjoyed it.
no, yeah, yeah. You should just go ahead and say the ending on the podcast so no one will, no one will watch it. But yeah, that was another one that was kind of that definitely popped up on my radar as well.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, yeah, so far this year's been pretty good. There's been quite a few lately that have been pretty impressive. So,
I would agree with that. I would agree with that for sure.
but speaking of impressive, let's get into your work here. So, tell us a little bit about Midnight Transient.
It's funny that I'm one of the worst people, as heavily involved as I am, to describe some things. I think it's because I try not to give too much away.
Right.
Every film that I've directed, at least the Midnight Transient and the Vietnam one, Follow the River. They're psychological thrillers to some degree, so there's things that I just want the audience to figure out.
Right.
But essentially, it's about the Midnight Transient, and without saying anything specifically, these two very different people at two very different parts of of 24 hours. At night he's one specific person, and during the day he's another specific person. But more so than that, he seems to have kind of been a normal person there for a while, but something happened or something changed, which, again, the viewers need to figure that out to the best of their ability. Where transient, in like its loosest term, and not like its understanding, is like it's someone that essentially goes from job to job.
Okay.
So essentially, part of that probably worser personality will end up in these different places as he kind of goes around, because it's kind of aimless for him now, since it's become this big problem where he just kind of goes around. Wherever he ends up, that's kind of where the chaos tends to happen from the second personality. And the second personality seems to latch onto jobs. If he were to walk into a movie theater, he might want to be the usher. If he were to walk into a police station, he'd say he might want to be a cop. But it's the worst person you'd have to do any of those jobs, because there's clearly a big mental issue there. There's a big disconnect for him mentally, like very psychotic, that second half. But essentially, like in the film, he finds himself in a very rural motel in Pennsylvania, and it's set in 1979. And he meets a really, really nice, sweet, kind receptionist, although very tired. And I think something kind of clicks with him with that, the kindness from her in the beginning. And that plays into later parts of the film as well. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the gist of it. You gotta ask, and I'll give you the answers as best as I can. Okay.
No, it sounds interesting, and yeah, I mean, I've watched both of the teaser trailers, and that was
Which
enough.
One do you like better, one or two?
I feel like, well, it's a good question. I feel like one was a little bit longer, if I remember correctly. So it seemed to give a little bit more information. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I just need to see a guy walking around with a sledgehammer, and I'm sold.
Yeah,
so.
No, like the blood on the end of it, right?
Yeah.
My favorite part of it was the workwear with the patches and everything like that. I just love that. That was great too, especially when it ends up getting like blood on one of the white patches right there. It's great. Yeah, no, we just released the second one. What, 2 days ago? Yesterday? I think it was yesterday.
Yesterday, yep.
Yeah. And then we try to give a little bit away. We try to give a little bit away in each one. It just depends on how much people are paying attention.
Yeah, for sure. And I love and respect that. I would much rather just get little snippets. Just give me the very basic information.
So you can kind of just figure it out for yourself.
Yeah. And I feel like that's an issue like lately with like other trailers that they just
it is.
They give way too much away.
Yep.
And at this point I try to just avoid trailers altogether.
Which is a shame, because that's really kind of going to be, that's kind of like your first test to see if you even want to watch it.
Right.
Like the bad thing is I've seen good films with bad trailers, and I've seen bad films with good trailers. It's a hodgepodge, but it really does. That's the thing that's going to set the hook in the beginning anyway.
Right.
But no, I agree with you, because we're working on the second Follow the River trailer, which is the Vietnam psychological war thriller that's coming out after Midnight Transient. And that's been like a 2-year project. But we were doing the second trailer, and I'm sitting there putting certain clips in that I want in. And I'm like, oh God, I gotta stop, because I'm gonna give things away that I'm not supposed to give away. So no, For me, I can understand why it happens because I'm picky about what I put in the stuff. But for them, I don't know why they do that. I don't know why you. I think sometimes they want to spell it out for the audience. I don't think you need to do that.
No.
I think the audience is very intelligent. I think they can figure it out for themselves. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'll typically I've for years now I've watched one trailer. I watched the very first trailer, and usually that's enough. I'm sold. But yeah, it's when there's multiple trailers, and then they keep recutting the trailer, and then you keep getting more and more.
It almost will like bleed out the entire film if they do too much.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, like a good example, I think, because I haven't seen the movie yet, obviously, but that Tarot. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for that.
Possibly. Kind of give me the vibes of it. What's going on?
It's all has to do with tarot cards. It
Okay.
looks very kind of like
Okay,
13 Ghosts.
I literally just saw it. It just popped up on YouTube not too long ago.
So judging by that trailer, I feel like I watched the whole movie.
Yep.
Now I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping they did that purposely and it's a surprise, but I'm kind of feeling like I probably have watched that movie through the trailer.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Did you see A Cure for Wellness?
Yes.
Yeah. Now the trailer for that I liked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire, I think, first half of the film I liked. I didn't like the ending because it's just, I think they went too far. Like less is more. When it's a good film, you don't have to go over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's calling for that, unless it's an over the top film, then it's fine. But that's kind of like a good example of what we're talking about. But yeah, no, they probably didn't give away the whole film. And I think what I'm referencing for A Cure to Wellness is that obviously you would have never assumed that was going to be the ending based off the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So, like in a lot of modern horror films, I've noticed you could get a pretty steady roll through the whole film. Like, all right, this is working. I like this. It's going to be good. Like, I might actually put this somewhere in my head as a classic that I got to watch when it came out. And then they do something really crazy with the ending that doesn't really match the rest of the film. And I think some people do like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they do something so far left field where you're like, huh. Yeah. The other one I think I'm thinking of, I'm not going to think of the freaking name of it. But God, was it interesting up until the end where it just kind of flew off the rails. It's the one where it's that abandoned house. And it came out a couple of years ago, so it's not that old. It's an abandoned house. I know. No horror film has an abandoned house, right? It's the one with the abandoned house, and it's got all the tunnels. And it's got like that person living in the tunnels. Like the man that lived there essentially like what is it?
Barbarian.
Yep. That one also just like fucking had me on the edge of my seat. And then we get to the end, it's like, it's a bit too much. Like you already did a great thing, don't go overboard with it. But what did you think of Barbarian? I'm curious.
I enjoyed it, but I do agree. Like I liked all the different twists and turns throughout.
Yep.
Because when that movie starts, you're expecting Bill Skarsgård to be the villain.
Yep.
And then once it's established that he's not, and we get into the other stuff, I really enjoyed the adventure of that movie. I didn't mind the ending, but I can totally agree and understand where you're coming from. That it was very like they had something very original the whole way through, and then I feel like the ending they weren't quite sure where to go with it, so they went the kind of stereotypical horror route.
Yeah, I don't want to see people continue to fall in that box because you don't need to. You really don't need to. Like I've seen, like it's a good instance of it, but we've seen plenty of films where it's like, you're doing great. Don't mess this up. Mm-hmm. Don't put anything in it that's going to take us too far to the one side or the other. Just like keep it going. You can get a good. I don't know. I think some of that's the writing, and maybe some of that's studio decisions as well, or the directing decisions as well. I know a lot of it's the directing decisions, but yeah, it's a common theme in modern horror films, and I think that's probably the reason I can't have a strong love affair with them, because it feels. I feel like they're trying to, and I don't want you to do that. Just tell me your story, and I can decide from there. And there's things I'm going to like about it, and there's things I'm not, but that's fine. Like I'm going to come to the conclusion either way. But don't try so hard. Like it's fine. The movie was perfectly fine until we kind of amped it up at the end. It's just like, maybe they do believe that modern audiences are overstimulated and that's what they think they need to do. But time and a place, right? Time and a
Right.
place.
Yep. No, yeah, I definitely understand. Definitely agree. Yeah, and it's hard to say what it could be. A lot of with this bigger studio movies, I typically say it's probably the studio. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say who exactly made that decision and why they made it. So I try to enjoy them all.
No, I mean, I think that's the good. I think that's the good mindset to have, though, is to go into films and try to find things that you like about it, even if you don't
Mhm.
like necessarily what they did with something or what they did with it. Like, you do try to find things, and most, I will say, most modern horror films, especially, visuals are great. They
Oh
have
yeah,
no problem with the visual
right.
aesthetic at all. Like, it's great. Like, it's something that you could go just take notes off of alone.
Hmm.
So that alone is just like, yeah, it's good reasons to go see them.
Yeah.
Immaculate being, I think, one of those films as well.
Yes. Yep.
So,
Yeah. Visually. Yeah. The only time I complain about visuals is when it's some really shitty CGI.
which there's a lot of that too. There's
There
a lot
is.
of that too these days.
Yeah.
So,
I think
yeah,
luckily I think we've made for the most part we've made it past the like super shitty CGI.
yeah, yeah.
So that's good. But yeah, I'm a practical effects guy. So even if the movie's not great, if it has practical effects, I will love it.
Well, you'll be happy that Midnight Transient's all that then.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Already
No,
love it. There we go.
yeah, I what I told, we had a new cinematographer and a new writer for this film, um, Mitchell and Mark, and I told them I want to get as much right in front of the camera and not rely on post much at all. Obviously, you'll have to do quite a bit of work in editing no matter what you do,
Hmm.
with color grading and everything else. But I try to get as much of it right in front of that camera, as practical, as real, and as honest as I can, before we ever get to the point of moving past that scene. We did that for Fall of the River, and we did that for Midnight Transient. Um, so that's really what we try to do as best as we can. And, it does come through that way a lot of the time. There's a
Hmm.
great one shot in the film, without giving specifics, where there's a great one shot of a film where the camera literally starts on one corner of the building and it takes you past a window where one of the murders happens, and then it keeps going all the way to the
Okay.
other door where the transient actually leaves the building. Um, it's just like, yeah, no, like we didn't have to do that in one. Like we didn't have to do that in just one continuous run, because
Hmm.
in order to get that, everything has to work perfect every
Right.
time. Actors have to do well. The lines have to come across well. The lighting has to go good. The camera movement has to go good. Everything has to work good. The blood stuff has to go good. But I like that. I'm always, if as long as I'm directing, I'm always going to try to give one or two really long shots, which is like, nope, let me show you that we're doing this all practically in the moment right here. We're not cutting. We're not going to skip past anything. So no, it is all practical. So I'm very happy about that. And it's a lot
Oh,
more
yeah.
fun too. It's a lot more fun for myself as an actor and everybody on the crew. It's crazy the amount of times we get excited just from the blood splurt. We're just like, "Ooh, that
Mhm.
one's perfect. Ooh, that one's really good." It's just like, out of context, that would sound really horrible. But
Yeah.
in film, it's just like, oh yeah, no, like the way the blood just went across the window, it just kind of like almost looked like this. It's just like, yep. It's like, yep. We're artisans in blood splurts now.
Hell
So.
yeah. Yeah, no, I respect that for sure. If it, like, I obviously I don't work on films. I'm on the other side of it, just appreciating
Mhm.
them. And yeah, uh, obviously there's you know uh, CGI and things that you need to do in post, but yeah, I'll always appreciate just practical. Doing everything you can to do it practically is
Yeah,
very respectful in my eyes.
yeah. No,
So
like, go ahead.
oh, good. I was just gonna say, so it's a short. Do you know roughly what's the runtime would be for it?
Last time I talked to the editors, last time I was sitting in it, which was literally yesterday.
Hmm.
Um, but 6,000 things happened before then. I think we're probably looking at 10 to 12 minutes. It may be
Okay.
more, it may be less. It is a short film, every
Hmm.
bit of it, but it doesn't. the way it's shot and the story that it tells doesn't feel short. Like you get pretty much everything that you need out of it from it, which it tells this really like it almost looks like it's telling a longer story in a very like short period of time. Like it's hard for me to even fathom the fact that it is like, oh, it's only 10 or 12 minutes. Considering we spent 3 months filming it.
Right.
And that's, set construction, and that's costume design, and that's all these other things. It's just like, yeah, it's hard to fathom it being 10 minutes. But, 10 to 12 minutes is not a horrible amount of time for a short film. It's actually like the way my cinematographer described it, Mitchell, he was like, it's kind of the sweet spot because you don't go too far to where you bore the audience. Mm-hmm. You don't have too much information. It's just like this perfect amount of time to tell that story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There's plenty of short films that 10, 12 minutes. That's all you need. Get a good story is a good story regardless of how long it is. So yeah, so I'm very excited to check it out. Is there say at some point, is there an idea for a full length of that particular story?
So Follow the River, and I'm going to keep referencing that because it's very relevant to like the timelines and stuff like that. The Vietnam psychological war thriller. That has been the culmination of the past, I would say, 2 years worth of our efforts. Like we've been in the field and on location and dealing with the horrible summers that we've had to deal with and all the other stuff and the mosquitoes. We've been dealing with that and living in that for that period of time. So we knew in turn finishing it and editing and making sure that it was everything we were supposed to do because it's our biggest film to date. And it's probably almost an hour long.
Okay.
And so since that took so much, I was like, no, we're not going to make everybody wait. We're not going to make everybody wait until this comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So Midnight Transient was kind of a byproduct of that, where we had time. We knew it was going to take time to finish Follow the River in post. And I'm still joking around about going and getting some edition shots. So nobody likes that. They're just like, no, we're done. We're done. I'm like, I don't know. I got 2 more things I could slide in there that would help. And they hate that. But Midnight Transient was kind of this thing. Was like, nope, we need to give something in the meantime until we can get to that because I don't think it's fair. And it's just better for our company as a whole to continue to produce work. So it was around the winter time of 23 where I'm just sitting there like, okay, what do I want to do? And so I go ahead and just start kind of immersing myself in that, having a lot more conversations about it. Because it's a long process to go from, ooh, this is a great idea to let's greenlight it and do it because that's cost and logistics and all that other stuff.
Right.
All the horrible, painstaking stuff. But so I started, I think I went to see The Shining in theaters during December because one of the theaters was playing it. And obviously just come out of it just feeling great because it's just, hard to not like that, especially if you care for Stanley Kubrick and a lot of his stuff, which I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, yeah, I think I want to do that. And I think I want to do it in the winter, which there's no way I was going to make that deadline. We definitely filmed a lot of it in the winter, but I wasn't going to make it. I was even having a nice thought of like, oh, maybe there'll be snow on the ground. It's like, no, there's no snow. There's like one snow the whole year.
Right.
But we started the process. The process took, several months to get prepared and get the logistics straight and estimate like how many sets we wanted to build and how we were going to build them and what the cost was. Because with Emerald Strike, it's like we do everything in-house. Like we will do crowdfunding occasionally. We might do crowdfunding for the next thing just to make sure that we can get everything perfect. But it's all in-house. It's being paid for by this company. So it's just like, yeah, we have to see how much we want to spend, see how much PR is going to be, and we have to go through all those logistics. And so like by the time we got through all the research and figured out how much we thought it was going to cost and what we were going to do, that's about the time I got Mark on board, my other writer, and we and him kind of worked through it and kind of brought it down to size. It was going to be a little bit bigger, tightened it up a little bit, and that's kind of how we ended up there. And I was just like, okay. I remember one of my close friends looking at me, it's like, whatever time you say this is going to take, it's going to take longer. Because I said 6 months for Fall of the River and it took 2 years. But that's my love child. Like, I liked Apocalypse Now, and I loved a lot of, Vietnam films, and I have deep well knowledge of like the subject matter as a whole. So it's like, yeah, I get obsessive over things, and that's good because it's good for the film.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, no, I'm going to get it done in 3 months. He's like, okay, we'll see about that. And we had started, I think, in January, and we had gotten to like the end of March. He's like, yep, we got one more scene to do, and we're done. And I remember he just looked at me, he's like, how long was that? I was like, oh, about 3 months.
There you go.
He was like, oh, you actually got it in 3 months. I was like, yeah, like, I didn't even believe I was going to get it in 3 months. I didn't. I was just like, no, like, I just say that because it makes everybody less anxious. They're like, oh, God, this is going to take 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like if you tell them a shorter time, it's like, oh, yeah, this will be easy. We'll just whip through it. So,
yeah.
But no, we can get it done in 3 months. And I've been I've been like in editing rooms ever since then. Just trying to make sure that we can reach May 10th because I'm just so eager for it to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the editors looked at me and was like, you really going to do May 10th? I was like, yeah, it's 3 weeks away. This was like last week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's 3 weeks away. It's like, that's kind of tight. I'm like, we got it. We got this. We'll be fine. Now we got 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, we got it. Like I said, I wanted to get out. I think everybody that's kept up with Emerald Strike and have really paid attention deserve to have something like that out. So I'm glad to be able to give that to them. And then, no, go ahead, ask another question because I'll stay on this tirade. I'm turning your podcast into a business lecture.
Nah, man, it's all good. It's very interesting. And yeah, no worries at all. So yeah, it releases May 10th, is it, where is it going to release to? Where's it going to be available at?
So it's going to be available on our Emerald Strike Film Co. YouTube page.
Okay.
And that's where the majority of the work is going to be accessible for the time being, probably for the foreseeable year. Yeah, for the next year, probably. We've talked about moving everything on site to like a separate website at some point, like its own streaming service, essentially. But we need a little bit more time for that. But right now it's Emerald Strike Film Co. for YouTube. Like that's where the majority of stuff is going to appear. The Instagram is the best at getting updates for all that, though. The Emerald Strike Film Co. Instagram is going to be the best for that, just because that's giving, that's updating like behind the scenes photos, and that's putting like links for the teasers when they're about to release, and that's also giving like updates on like what's coming up and what's next. So like the Instagram is the best place for right now to kind of keep up with everything that's coming out. Everything that we're doing, that's where you get all like the photos, that's where you get the behind the scenes stuff. That's where you get a lot of the stuff that you're not going to get on YouTube because it's just, you can't put it there. Like that's just for videos.
Right.
So yeah, between those two are your best bets.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll include those in the show notes. So anyone listening that's interested can find all the details there.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been following the Instagram, checked out the pictures, and like I said, I'm very excited for it. I can't wait to check it out. Cause you've put enough out there that it has piqued my interest, but without showing too much. So thank you. Thank you for that.
I think to some degree, I'm sure a lot of people don't like that, but that as long as I'm directing something and here, which is going to be for a long time, hopefully, that's the way it's going to go. That's the way it's going to go because, like I said, I think pretty much any film that I'm directing or any film that Emerald Strike, at least for the foreseeable future, is going to make, especially for this year. I think it's going to be one of those things like you should watch it twice. I know Fall of the River, you have to watch it twice because you're not going to get stuff. There's stuff that's happened in the beginning and like the middle of the film, which is like, yep, you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to watch that again, because once we kind of tell you somewhat of what it is at the end, you're going to have like, oh. So yeah, and I think Midnight Transient's the exact same way. I do think it's one of those ones where like, yeah, you should go back and watch it again and pick up on some cues because they're there. And there's also we do this thing where the universes for all the films are semi interlinked.
Okay.
So in a Pennsylvania hotel in 1979, a Midnight Transient, there may or may not be, relative information that would lead you to like the other characters in Follow the River that was like 10 years prior. Like old news clippings that could be on a wall or possible, TV spots that do play in the film. So
Hell
like,
yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
we try to interconnect everything to where it's all in the same universe essentially,
Hmm.
which, I love to do that. It's the detail stuff is the most fun.
Yeah,
So
and yeah,
yeah.
as a viewer, that's always really fun too, to try to kind of catch the little Easter eggs and little
Mhm.
nods. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, I just want to get to the merchandise part where we get to make a bunch of because it's just like so many of the shots that we've gotten, especially in Midnight Transient. It's just like, yeah, I could see that on a t-shirt. I could see
Oh yeah, yeah.
that as a poster, So I'm excited to but we can just because there's so many great images and like certain like iconic moments where it's just like, yeah, I'd like to see that as a poster or a t-shirt. We'll get to that
No.
point soon, I'm sure. I know
Yeah,
we
hell yeah.
talked about it,
Yeah, I'm a sucker
but
for merch and collectibles too, so I'm all
yeah, like
about it.
literally, I just went to a concert last night, and you know, somebody looked at me and was like, "You only going for the merch?" I'm like, no, I'm going for the concert, but the merch is a plus. Like the merch is a big benefit. So I feel that way about a lot of things.
Hmm.
I feel that way, especially about film, especially. But
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we have
what else you got for me?
I was gonna say, so we have Midnight Transient, Follow the River. Anything else planned after those that you can talk about?
So yeah, so we have two projects that are. We have one that's greenlit, but we haven't started pre-production on yet. We're just doing notes and logistics, and
Hmm.
then there is one that's also about to be greenlit, and hopefully I won't piss my favorite writer off by saying anything about it. But picture a park ranger at night. Like basically ride along with the park ranger at night. Back in the day, in like a West Virginia. Um, Damn, I just blanked on what it is. Uh, Shoot. State Park. State Park. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay, okay.
Crackers. Yeah. So, yep. Just picture like a ride along late at night, in a West Virginia state park with no radio service, no
Hmm.
phone service, no nothing. Um, it's almost just it's like a vibe, like a visual film almost, and that's the thing that he's become obsessed with. That we're all very excited about because that also will be short.
Okay.
Um, that also will be a short one, but that's just one of those ones we're really excited about because we can do so much with it. Like
Oh
just the
yeah.
concept of it. It's just like if you can visualize that, I
Hmm.
think that's really interesting. And then the next thing, the bigger thing that's going to take quite a bit of time and effort is going to be Cold War related. So it's going to be
Okay.
like it's going to be a thriller set in the Cold War, and it's going to touch on like the IRA, and it's going to touch on like East and West Berlin. It's going to have like a lot of dark and dry humor.
Hmm.
Um, we're thinking about doing a series out of that. So like a
Okay.
2, 3, 4 part series. We might do that. I'm still on the fence, but that one's gonna be pretty trippy. And I'm pretty excited about that because we're gonna set it in I think like 80s, like West Berlin.
Hmm.
So it's gonna be pretty trippy. So yeah, I'm excited about that one too. But that's it.
Hell yeah.
That's all I have to say about it. I can't.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Just
No,
gonna just go.
they all sound very interesting, and just the way that you speak about them, you definitely have a passion for them. So
Yeah,
uh, that that makes you want to see them even more. So
yeah. No,
um,
I like. Yeah. No, like I said, it means a lot to me no matter how much we have to go through on this end, and we do
mhm,
go through quite a bit, um, especially starting in any film company, especially having it on the East Coast, especially being responsible for all the financials and all that other stuff,
mhm.
um, for the most part. And So a lot of blood, sweat, and tears goes into that. So we do try to tell some of the more interesting stories. We do really go out of our way. We do really try to not hold punches, and whether we fall short or we get it right, it's one of those things. Like, yeah, we do really really make a strong effort for it. And if nothing else, we do try to give a strong story or an interesting visual, storytelling, no matter what happens. So we do really try hard at that. Everybody does a great job.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And yeah,
Just
again,
waiting for you to come work for me now. You're just gonna have to start writing some shit up. You're just gonna have to
all
come
right.
over here. Yeah.
we'll
Yeah,
talk about it.
you know what? I would actually like to see that, though. I would actually like to see what you would write up for, like, a rough draft of, like, a horror film. I'd like to see that.
All right.
Because,
Well,
I mean, think about the scope of what you
mhm.
got, how much
Right,
you've
right.
seen. Yeah, I'd like to see what you pick. You'd probably
All
have,
right.
like, 30 drafts, and you send me 30. Like, I couldn't pick one. I had to do all of these.
Yeah, I've never put much thought into it, but yeah, we can probably go down that route.
Hey, I'd like to see it. I know me and the writers would love to see it. We don't
All
care.
right.
Like, we don't care about any of this. We just like to say it's the idea.
Hmm.
The idea is what's interesting to us, no matter what. So, yeah,
Yeah, fair enough.
we're gonna start playing emo tag after this.
Yeah.
We gotta stop talking about it too, because then we're gonna give something away. It's just like, yeah,
Very
let's
true,
get
very
this
true.
thing in later.
Yeah, no, we'll wrap this episode up, but yeah, we will definitely talk more afterwards. But yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time. You've got a deadline for May 10th, so we got to get back to work. But no, I just really want to thank you and appreciate you for taking time out to talk about your films and like I said, you've got a passion for it. You can just tell just by talking to you, and I really appreciate and respect that. So again, thank you, and I'm very looking forward to May 10th and seeing Midnight Transient, because yeah, it's one of my highly anticipated now at this point.
Oh, I appreciate that, Ian. Thank you so much for having me on here. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. We got to do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously,
Yeah,
we'll be playing text and emo tag from this point on, because now we've started this whole other thing that
right.
everybody has heard about. But no, thank you, Ian, so much for having me on here. I'm really, really appreciative. Love a lot of your work. I appreciate all of this. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely no problem. Anytime you want to come back on and talk, the offer is there.
I appreciate that, Ian. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Do you want to give any shout outs? I don't know if you have any social media, anything.
I think we pretty much covered it.
Okay.
When is this coming out?
This will be out in about a week.
A week. All right.
Yeah, they release on Mondays, so it'll probably be next
Okay.
Monday. I wanted to get
Okay.
it out. It'll be the Monday before the release of the movie.
Okay. Sweet. Okay. If I forget about
So
that, because I'm probably going to forget about it, I'm
that's
just
right.
gonna send the email. That's
It's
all
all
I do
good.
anymore.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll shoot you a text. Say, hey, it's coming out.
Sweet. Yep. Nope. Emerald Strike Film Co. Instagram, best place to get all the current updates and all the behind the scenes stuff. Obviously, the YouTube is the bread and butter for the majority of, like, the produced work, behind the
Okay,
scenes
awesome.
stuff, little commentary, stuff like that. So, yep.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, and again, I'll include the YouTube and the Instagram in the show notes, so they are accessible to anyone watching and listening.
Appreciate it, Ian. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, and thank you, Mac. Again, thank you. It's been a blast. Can't wait to talk some more. So good
Yeah, I'm
luck
looking forward
on
to it.
the editing and getting it all finished up there. And can't wait for the 10th to see it and enjoy it.
Yeah, you and me both. I'm very excited. Very excited.
Awesome. But again, thank you, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
So I hope you all enjoyed my conversation with Mac. I had such a fun time chatting with him, and I can't wait to do it again soon. Also, can't wait to see Midnight Transient. It'll be premiering on Friday, May 10th. Check out the show notes for Emerald Strike Films YouTube and Instagram links, where you can find all the trailers, pictures, and updates for the film. And then, of course, check out the film on May 10th. As far as where to find us, all links are in the show notes as well. We're over on Patreon. Thanks again to Ghoulie Julie for holding it down over there. We're also on TikTok, Instagram, Discord, Threads, Facebook, YouTube, and all audio platforms. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating. But I appreciate you all. Thanks again to Mac and Emerald Strike Films. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week. And until then, stay safe out there.
Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you.
There you go. That's it.